चित्तये योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च भैषजेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां Patanjalim प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. In our last class, we discussed the last two types of vrittis out of the 5. Pramana, Viparya, Vikalpa, Nidra, Smritaya. These were 5 types of vrittis. Vrittis that give rise to right knowledge, which give rise to false knowledge, which give rise to some kind of a mental construction, followed by words. Those were the first 3. And in last class we discussed Nidra and Smriti, another 2 types of vrittis. Here Nidra means deep sleep, as distinct from dream stage. Sushupti. The Sushupti is also a vritti. There is no knowledge per se in Sushupti. It is abhava pratyaya alambana. It's based on, so to say, awareness of nothingness, abhava. To distinguish it from the state of samadhi, where there are no vrittis at all, Sushupti is emphasized to have a vritti. Abhava pratyaya alambana vrittir nidra. The word vritti is used here deliberately to distinguish it from the state of asamprajñāta samadhi, when there are no vrittis at all. There is this difference between sushupti and asamprajñāta samadhi. In sushupti also we do not have the knowledge of waking and dream state objects, but there is awareness of nothingness, so to say. How we know that there is a vritti in sushupti? About that, so because there is memory. When we get up from sushupti, there is memory that I did not know anything. I slept well, I was happy, that kind. So this memory cannot come without samskara. Samskara cannot come without experience, and there can be no experience without vritti. So in sushupti also we have this vritti. And this is also to be restrained if we want to achieve yoga. And hence this is also one of the 5 vrittis which are to be restrained. That was one vritti. The last vritti was vritti of smriti. In common parlance we call it memory. Something we have seen earlier, experienced earlier, inferred earlier, anubhuta vishaya, what we have experienced. Asampramosha, that doesn't slip away, that comes back, so to say. That vritti is called smriti vritti. The smriti could be of any of the earlier 4 vrittis. The smriti is always samskara-janya, triggered by impressions. These 2 have to be done simultaneously. Ubhayadhinaschitta vritti nirodha. This chitta vritti nirodha is dependent on both. We cannot give up one and hold on only to the other. It cannot be done. The vairagya also has to be there, and also abhyasa. The detachment and practice, both have to be there. And he says how our mind and our life itself has the potential to flow in both the directions. It can flow towards kaivalya, towards moksha. It can also flow towards samsara. Our life can take us towards moksha or towards samskara. It has that potential. Through vairagya, the flow of life towards this world, towards samsara, is weakened. Khili kriyate. It is weakened. The flow of life towards samsara is weakened through vairagya. And through abhyasa, the flow of life towards kaivalya is strengthened. Thus, both are necessary. We cannot give up one and hold on only to other. Sometimes when we read Sri Ramakrishna's statement, you start going to east, west, it's automatically left behind. we may get an idea that he's talking only about abhyasa. He says you do more and more abhyasa, and there is no need to harp so much, there is no need to practice vairagya. We may get that idea, but that is not true. Because if you want to go towards east, you have to stop moving towards west. That stopping moving towards west is what is vairagya. Stopping from moving towards an unwanted direction is vairagya. So vairagya is involved in that instance which Sri Ramakrishna says. And of course, Ramakrishna's another example. There are a couple of examples where he says you cannot row an anchored boat. That is, when you are trying to row an anchored boat, you are putting effort, but there is no vairagya. Or he says you start putting water in a pot which has so many holes. The water will not stay there. You have to plug the holes. That plugging the holes is vairagya. We stop the outward going, the worldly going tendencies of the mind, that is vairagya. And simultaneously, along with that, we undertake such thoughts and practices which lead us towards kaivalya, towards moksha. Both have to be done hand in hand. Then only progress is possible. Maybe a very gross example or a very stark example. We want to get a desire to watch television when it is time for meditation. Then we stop that watching of television. We get up from there. That is vairagya. And then we go to temple or go to our shrine and start meditating. That is abhyasa. So we stop one thing and start another thing. This is the combined effort. These two have different modes of acting. Vairagya is a restrictive effort. Vairagya is also, no doubt, it's an effort. It's a restrictive effort. We restrict our mind and body from doing certain actions or thinking certain thoughts. And abhyasa is a proactive. We generate certain thoughts. We make the mind flow in certain direction, and the body has to follow it. So physically and mentally we undertake certain activities proactively. That is abhyasa. And we restrict our mental and bodily activities, and that is vairagya. These two have to go hand in hand. So that was the sutra, and it gave in general the means of attaining this nirodha. Next 4 sutras he defines what exactly is abhyasa and then what is vairagya. So he says, tatra sthatau yatnaha abhyasaha. What is abhyasa? What is practice? It is a yatna, it is an effort. In sthiti, that is the literal translation. Now this literal translation doesn't really fit what Patanjali had in his mind. Vashyakara has explained this sutra very beautifully in the way it covers the entire gamut of practice. The word sthiti, in simply translated, literally will mean a state, a stage. So it will mean a stage in our spiritual life. And it has been given saptami vibhakti, sthitau, which is generally used as a locative case. So exactly translated grammatically, it will mean abhyasa or practice is an effort, yatna, in sthiti, that is, effort in staying at a particular stage, in a particular stage. Effort to stay in a particular stage is abhyasa. That would be the literal translation. But as I said, this falls short of the entire gamut. It doesn't sound really reasonable, because effort should not only be at staying in a state, it should be moving forward. If you say this is a saptami vibhakti, then it becomes effort at staying in a particular stage. That would just be holding to that stage, but effort should be moving forward. So this literal translation doesn't really fit in. And of course, Vyasa Maharshi has given a different interpretation, wherein he says, Sthiti is chittasya avrittikasya prashantavahita sthiti. He defines sthiti not as any stage, not as any stage in spiritual life, but a particular stage in spiritual life where there is a prashantavahita of the chitta, where there is a peaceful state of the mind. And peaceful is not in any sense that we are aware of, but avrittikasya chittasya. Avrittika is to be understood as wherein most of the vrittis have been restrained. So sthiti is kind of a technical term. It is a stage of very high and deep concentration. Not exactly of samprajnata samadhi, little before that, you can say. So this sthiti is a very high state of concentration, a state of deep concentration, where the vrittis of the mind have been almost controlled, almost restrained, and there is a peaceful flow, so to say, in the mind, a flow of peace in the mind, prashanta vahita. That state is called sthiti. So sthiti is a definitive stage, a very high and state of deep concentration. But next he says, the Saptami Vibhakti is not in the locative case, but tadarthya. That is, effort towards that, effort for the sake of that, for the sake of attaining that sthiti is abhyasa. So any effort which is oriented towards, which has as its goal, which is meant for attaining to that state of deep concentration, any effort is abhyasa. So once you take this as the definition of abhyasa, it covers the entire gamut of practice, right from yama, niyama, because all these yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, all these are oriented towards or meant for or for the sake of attaining to that sthiti, which is a state of deep concentration. So the Saptami is to be understood in the adarthya, for the sake of. So all effort for the sake of attaining sthiti is abhyasa. So that is the first sutra. And this makes the gamut of this abhyasa very wide. Every effort that is aimed at attaining that state of deep concentration is abhyasa. That is the first sutra. Tatra sthitau yatnaha abhyasa. The next sutra is Satu dirghakala nairantarya satkara asevitaha dridha bhumihi. Very important sutra. And this is also very oft-quoted. This sutra is repeated in many places, in many discourses and all that. Satu means sa abhyasa, that practice. Dridha bhumihi, it becomes well established. We become well grounded, so to say, in this state of abhyasa. How do we become well grounded? That is the greatest obstacle or sorts of difficulty that all spiritual seekers face in life is absence of this dridha bhumi, absence of this well-groundedness or consistency in abhyasa. This abhyasa could be, this abhyasa as we saw in the earlier sutra, it could mean anything. It could mean practice of regular meditation as is generally understood. But it could also mean chanting God's name continuously. That's also abhyasa. It could also mean doing all work as an offering unto God. That's also abhyasa, because that also has as its goal the attainment of sthiti, which is a state of deep concentration. So anything we do towards attaining of that state is abhyasa, and we find that we very often slip from it. It doesn't become dhrida bhumi. We don't become grounded, so to say, in that practice of abhyasa. We do not become. It's like, they say it is like walking in a slush. Our abhyasa is like walking in a slush. We walk one step, two step, and we fall down. It keeps on happening. It doesn't become dhrida bhumi. So how to make it dhrida bhumi? That's what he says. It becomes dhrida bhumi when nirantara asevitaha, dirgha kala asevitaha, satu dirgha kala nairantarya satkara asevitaha. When it is undertaken, asevitaha, dirgha kala asevitaha, it takes long time for the practice to be well grounded, to be well established in our life. It is a matter of patience. He also says, nirantara asevita. Continuously we have to do. And satkara asevita. It has to be undertaken, the practice, whichever practice we are undertaking, it has to be undertaken with devotion and reverence, so to say. So this dirghakala, nairantarya and satkara, these three qualities have to be there in our practice. Then only it will become dhrida bhumi. Then only shall we become well established in any practice. Nairantarya is important because we fail regularly. And dirghakala is also important because many people practice for few days, few weeks, and then find that nothing is happening, so they give it up. So to offset that, he is telling, you can't be impatient in spiritual life. You have to have patience. You have to have patience. One has to have patience. We are not going to get results in few weeks. That's why it has to be practiced for a long time, dirghakala. And it has to be continuously practiced. Our life is such that any kind of disturbance, the first casualty is our spiritual practice. Whatever spiritual practice we are doing, the first casualty is our spiritual practice. That's something we think that it is something is an appendage in our life, which can be not followed every day. If there is shortage of time, if there is some disturbance, if there is some mental disturbance, some pressure, whatever, first casualty is spiritual practice. So but he says, nairantarya, it has to be practiced regularly, assiduously, continuously. That is the second quality. And third quality, most important, satkara sevitaha. It has to be undertaken, our spiritual practice has to be undertaken with reverence. And Vyasa Maharshi, in his commentary, beautifully says what is meant by undertaking spiritual life with reverence. He says, dirghakala sevitaha, nirantara sevitaha, and then tapasa brahmacharyena vidyaya shraddhaya sampaditaha satkaravan. Our practice becomes satkaravan, it becomes endowed with reverence when we have achieved it, when we have got it, or when it is accompanied with tapas, brahmacharya, vidya and shraddha. As we undertake our spiritual practice, it will become endowed with reverence only when it is accompanied by these four qualities, by these four, so to say, values or disciplines. Tapas is austerity, brahmacharya is continence, then we have vidya, that is knowledge, and shraddha, that is faith. faith in the Guru, faith in the scriptures, this spiritual practice which we are undertaking, this is the means to that Kaivalya. That faith in the Guru Vakya, faith in the spiritual discipline which we are undertaking, that this is the way that will take us to the ultimate goal of our life. We cannot afford to give it up. That brings reverence. The Shraddha brings reverence. And then tapas and brahmacharya. In our modern context, these two words can be translated as simplicity and discipline. Tapas doesn't mean we have to stand on one leg or in a hot sun or nothing of that sort. An uncluttered life, simple life, that's it with life of tapas. Because that gives us so much of bandwidth. People, if you have hundreds of pairs of clothes and then so much time is spent in maintaining all that, that is not a life of austerity. Uncluttered life, a frugal life, a life of minimum requirements, that is the life of tapas. And he's saying, you accompany your practice with this life of simplicity. And brahmacharya is discipline. An ironclad routine, so to say. An ironclad routine. That is brahmacharya. Come what may, the spiritual practice will continue. That ironclad routine, disciplined life, that is the life of brahmacharya. So a simple, minimalist life which is well disciplined. And when we have faith in the words of the Guru and words of the scriptures, and along with that there is Vidya, there is Swadhyaya. The Swadhyaya, Shraddha, all these will come again in further sutras. But presently he is saying your practice, it becomes a reverential practice only when it is accompanied with a simple and disciplined life wherein there is space for Swadhyaya, Moksha Shastra Adhyana, and when there is faith in the Guru Vakya and Shastra Vakya, when your practice is accompanied with all these for a long time, uninterrupted, then it becomes Dhrida Bhumihi. Then it becomes well grounded. We become well established in that practice. Dirghakala we have to do. Nairantarya, see, there will be slips. We can't, from the go, we cannot practice it continuously. But that effort to again start, that is important, that is necessary. So this 4 disciplines, so to say, tapas, brahmacharya, vidya and abhyasa, these, so to say, provide a safety net for us. These help us not to let our mind thrown away into disturbance. Otherwise, as I said, every small disturbance has the tendency to derail our practice. But if our practice is accompanied by these 4 disciplines, then it becomes well grounded. That's why this is Vyasa Bhashya. From Vyasa Bhashya, Vyasa gives these 4 disciplines to be accompanied with practice. And then it becomes well grounded. So this is how Abhyasa is defined. Next Sunday we won't have class on account of this annual celebrations. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.